Today's video is sponsored by Private Internet Access. Today we're going to be talking about Switch controllers. If any system is quickly approaching the world record for most number of third-party unlicensed controllers made for it, it's the Switch. There are a lot to choose from. We've done our fair share of reviews, and today I want to take a look at the best. Now, the reason why I say the best is because these are three controllers that are currently the top-selling options on Amazon that also have some great reviews behind them, and I want to see if they actually live up to that. These all go for $30 or even less. They've got a bunch of great reviews. Let's see how they actually are. Now to start, we're going to look at this one right here, which has the very unforgettable name of 2021 upgraded version wireless controller for Switch, ktten professional controller remote gamepad joypad joystick for Switch console. Newest stock. So this is actually the cheapest of the controllers that is on this list. While the other ones both went for $30, this one was only $24, which for a wireless controller is about as cheap as it gets. Actually, one of these controllers went on sale right after I bought it for even cheaper. I'll talk about that in a second. But as of me buying these controllers, this was the cheapest one, and it kind of shows. Look, for $24, this is a functional controller. The sticks and buttons work, it connects to your Switch, all that is fine. And I will say, as one kind of light compliment to it, I kind of like what they were going for with the side grips here. You don't see a lot of Switch controllers that have textured side grips. Usually it's just a plastic all around. It's not the best textured side grip. There's definitely nicer ones that I've used before, but I appreciate the effort here. Where you run into problems with this controller are in two key areas. First off, the sticks. The tension on them feels fine. Not the best in the world, but again, for $24, it gets the job done. The biggest problem with them, though, is the sensitivity on them. It's not that it's going to be misreading which direction you're pushing the stick in, but the fact that it reads full tilt, not at full tilt. It's really more about right here when you're getting a little past the halfway point, which, depending on the kind of games you're playing, might not be an issue. You may not even notice this, but if you're playing anything that requires any kind of more refined input, if you need some degree of precision, if you're playing a shooter and you're trying to get your aim down just right, that is something that's definitely going to be an issue over time. The other, and honestly bigger problem with this controller is the front-facing buttons. They're sticky. You could actually even feel sometimes where you press down a button and you lift the pressure off with your finger and the button doesn't really come up with you. Now, like the buttons, there are some games where this isn't really a problem at all. If you're mostly playing turn-based games where you just have to select commands, not a big deal. But if you're doing anything that's action-heavy, where you have to hit buttons repeatedly, not great. I did some time playing Age of Calamity and Hades both with this, and anytime that I had to just rapidly press attack or I was trying to dash anywhere super quickly, it just was super uncomfortable. You could feel the button sticking a little bit, and sometimes I wasn't able to press it again when I needed to. This was the cheapest of the group, and so I'm pretty okay with this being the one that I did end up liking the least. As far as wireless controller options go, look, if your goal is to get the absolute cheapest possible, this is pretty cheap. But ultimately, I think it's worth paying the extra $6 to $8 to get at least a slightly nicer, cheap controller that's gonna work a little better all around the board. Out of the three that I picked up, this is definitely the one where I'm kind of like, shy away. Now, before moving on, I do want to take a quick second to talk about something that is also really cheap and affordable, but unlike this controller, does not suck. Today's sponsor, PIA. In today's online age, a VPN is basically a requirement for safe internet browsing, keeping your privacy intact and making sure that everything you do on the internet remains safe and secure. VPNs have always been a useful way to keep yourself protected while connected to public Wi-Fi, but even using the internet at home, it can be really important to make sure your connection is safe and secure when filling out sensitive information like filling out personal info or buying things online. And especially nowadays, with so many people working from home and potentially handling very sensitive work information, it's really important to make sure you have a VPN like Private Internet Access. PIA has been around since 2010 and is the leading no-log VPN service, winning PC Mag's Editor's Choice. It has unlimited access to 20,000 servers in over 70 different countries, with dedicated apps for all your major devices like Windows PC, Mac, iPhone, Android, and more. Check out the link down below in the description to get 2 years plus 3 extra months for free at just $259 a month. All right, let's get back to talking about controllers. Next, we have the ktten wireless controller. Now, the reason why this one is a top seller isn't exactly a surprise. It's cute as shit, but that's also something that sometimes makes me a little hesitant sometimes. If I see an ugly controller on Amazon with tons of great reviews, I'm like, oh, that's probably actually a great controller. If I see a really cute thematic controller that's got a lot of great reviews, who knows how many of those are people going like, yep, it's cute. So I really wanted to give this one a try. And honestly, it really surprised me. Now, if this looks at all familiar to you because you've been watching my channel, this uses the same mold as the Tom Nook controller I reviewed last year. This does come from a different main manufacturer, but obviously the plastic molds are the same for the body, and a lot for what I had to say about the Nook controller does apply to this one as well. Buttons, sticks, shoulders, everything about it feels actually pretty nice. Not the best I've used, but for $30, it is actually a pretty strong contender and a lot better than a lot of similarly priced controllers I've used in the past. Really, the biggest kind of problem with this controller, which is also one of its biggest strengths, is its noticeably very small size. This is much smaller than most other controllers on the market you can grab for the Switch, which if you have smaller hands, whether because you're a kid watching this video or you're just an adult with smaller hands, this can actually be a really big upside. If you've ever held a traditional Switch Pro controller and just been like, this feels kind of weird to me, it's maybe just a little bit too big, this is definitely a controller that you should keep your eyes on. Overall, for its price point, this thing is great. I think it's one of the first options you should look at if you're into a smaller controller, but it does have a couple little problems I think worth pointing out. First off, like with the Nook controller, while the ear aesthetic is very cute, it is also a little bit of a hassle, mainly because, at least for me, I have this weird reflex where I feel like I should be pushing it by like tilting into the ear. Don't do that. You don't want to do that. That's not how it works. You do press down like you would on a regular controller. That's the way you want to use it. Second off, at least out of the box, the rumble on this controller was very aggressive, uncomfortably so. However, it's worth pointing out that one of the few times where it was actually worth it looking at the instructions, there is a hidden rumble setting on this controller that you can mess with while being on the Switch controller syncing screen. You just do a button combination with the D-pad and you can make it more or less intense. I highly recommend turning it down after you get it, at least assuming that all of them ship with the intensity at max like mine was. Lastly, one downside of this controller that was actually shared with the last one as well, and it's not a deal breaker for me, but I know this is a make or break kind of thing for a lot of people. This will not wake up your Switch. If you want a Pro controller that you can pick up and just immediately start playing your Switch from right away, this does not have that functionality. You have to turn the Switch on first, either by using another Joy-Con wirelessly or by walking up and hitting the power button. It's a hassle for some people, I know, but if that's something that doesn't really matter to you, this thing's awesome, as long as your hands are smaller. And last we have the YCC Team Wireless Pro Controller for Switch. Now, the reason why I ordered this one specifically is because of all the controllers in the top listings that were unlicensed cheap controllers, this one had by far the most reviews total that were all very positive. And I don't know how my brain didn't translate this when I first saw the listing and bought it, but this is very clearly a Switch Pro controller shell. I mean, clearly augmented to a degree. It has this kind of leopard print thing going on the handles, and then the leaves and little stuff going on the body itself. But as far as the main physical body goes, this is very clearly a Switch Pro controller, at least in terms of mold. And for the most part, it actually does a pretty good job of emulating the feeling of a lot of Pro controller buttons. The front-facing ones feel pretty good, the shoulders a little looser, but not by much. The D-pad is okay, nothing to write home about, but again, $30. Really, the only thing as far as feelings go on this controller that was very awkward for me is the sticks. It's not an issue of sensitivity like it was on that first controller, but rather an issue of tension. These are very loose feeling. It doesn't actually snap back into position quite as well as I wish it would, and it even kind of goes back a little bit. You can see it like react a little bit, just too much. It's a little off-putting for me. There are some people out there who actually do like the feeling of loose sticks, and if that's a thing that you like, cool, great for you. But personally, I like having at least a medium amount of tension to really feel like I have some minute control, and this just feels a little too loose for my comfort. That aside though, everything else about this controller, especially for its price point, is actually really good. Buttons and everything feel solid. While the sticks do feel a little loose, the actual sensitivity and reading of them is really nice. And unlike the other two controllers we've talked about, this is the only one out of the three that I picked up that is able to wake up the Switch from sleep. Plus the fact that this thing's body is basically identical to the official Switch Pro controller, to me, is a really big plus, because I really like the shape of the Switch Pro controller. It's one of the more comfortable first-party controllers that I have used. I still like the Xbox a little bit more, but the Switch Pro controller comes very close. So this having that same body and shape design is a big bonus for me because I just like the way that feels. I think it's a more comfortable controller. You can use it for a long period of time without it really cramping up or feeling uncomfortable. Out of the three that I picked up, aside from the looseness of the sticks, I think this is really the main one that should appeal to a lot of people. And what's even crazier about this is that while I bought this controller at 30 bucks, at least as I am shooting this video right now, it had a price drop down to 22, which is awesome considering everything that it gives you. I will say, if you do have smaller hands, definitely look at the kitten controller instead. I actually like that one overall a little more, but for most people, it's just gonna be a bit too small for comfort. But if you have smaller hands, that's the way to go. Otherwise, this right here is the winner.